Welcome. We're going to talk a little bit about the proper use of the law and ask the question, are grace and law opposed to one another? Hopefully, again, my son is practicing cello because that's how it goes. But hopefully, this is something that you've thought about, something that you probably already know. If not, let's talk a little bit about what grace is. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what the law is. And then we're going to ask the question, are these two things opposed to each other? Because by now, you should be seeing that Paul is trying to make a case for grace through faith. That's how people are saved. And he's pushing back on those ideas that are found within the law. You should be right around chapter 2, 2.5, around there, getting to chapter 3. And there's this constant push and pull between what grace is and what the law is. And not understanding those two things is probably putting you at a little bit of a disadvantage. On the other hand, you may know all this stuff already, but that's why we're here in the class. That's the reason for it. So hopefully this will be something that's a blessing. I'm not going to put music at the beginning because that was just kind of cheesy, but I was playing around and having a good time. Also, I noticed that last week, probably everything was just on the left side of your hearing. That has to do with the recording into QuickTime. Unfortunately, it's just it's a stereo feed, but it only takes in one channel. So it looks as if I'll have to do a little bouncing on the stuff. So if you don't hear it that time, I was able to get to it. If you do only hear it on the left-hand side, then that's what it is. So again, we're taking a look at the proper use of the law, but let's begin with a quick conversation about what is, yes, I am. Okay. So first we're going to ask the question about grace. So first we ask the question, grace, what is it? Right? Probably the best explanation of grace is the idea of unmerited favor, right? For no reason, you've been given something really nice, and that was pretty great. And because of that grace being given to you, because that's been given to us by God, and it's not because we deserved it, it's not because we decided that we should have it, but because it's been given to us by God, then we can begin to understand why or how much he loves us. I guess we'd say it that way. So the very shortest definition of grace, and if we were to ask it on a test or anything, is simply unmerited favor. And it's really the unmerited favor of God. So when you give someone grace, normally you're not giving them something they deserve. When you give someone grace, you're giving them something that they haven't necessarily asked for, that they don't necessarily deserve. And that's kind of okay with it. I'll make that a little bit bigger for you. So let's look at number 2. The word grace is actually in the Old Testament is usually rendered as favors. So 53 times out of the 69 that you see it in the Old Testament, it's actually rendered or translated as the idea of favored. I'll give you just a quick example here from Exodus 33. It says, "One day Moses said to the Lord, 'You've been telling me, take these people up to the promised land, but you haven't told me whom you will send with me. You have told me, I know you by name, and I look favorably or with grace upon you. If it is true that you look with grace or favorably upon me, let me know your ways so I may understand you more fully and continue to enjoy your," again, favor or grace. "And remember that this nation is your very own people." The Lord replied, "I will personally go with you, Moses, and I will give you rest. Everything will be fine for you." Then Moses said, "If you don't personally go with us, don't make us leave this place. How will anyone know that you are looking favorably upon me, with grace again, on me or on your people, if you don't go with us? For your presence among us sets your people and me apart from all the other people on the earth." The Lord replied to Moses, "I will indeed do what you have asked, for I look," again, favorably or with grace upon you, "and I know you by name." Moses responded, "Then show me your glorious presence." The Lord replied, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will call my name Yahweh before you, for I will show mercy to anyone I choose, and I will show compassion to anyone I choose. But you may not look directly at my face, nor for no one may see me and live." And then, as you know, he passed by, and Moses was able to see a little bit of his robe. This happened on the Mount Sinai. By the way, this all happened while the law was being given, which is fascinating, right? God is up there talking about grace, and then at the same time, they're given the law. But we'll get to that, and let me not jump ahead. So we have this idea from God, and this is Old Testament, right? This is before Jesus. If you don't know what the Old Testament is, it's the idea that before Jesus, grace was still given, favor was given to God's people, and God gave them that favor freely. He chose them. Sometimes you've heard the term that Israel was the chosen people. Well, that's because God chose them without merit, without any reason to choose them. So let's move on to the next one. So Exodus 33 read that, but grace is actually more than that, and we see it here. John, because of Jesus, we understand grace differently, and the Greek word for grace is charis, which again means unmerited favor. But John 1:16 and 17 says it this way: out of his fullness we have all received grace in place of grace, or grace upon grace. That's what we have been given through God. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So even the law is seen as a bit of grace, God giving this particular grace, and we'll unpack that a little bit in the next section. But so there was this fuller expression. We begin to understand this concept of grace differently when Jesus showed up, because Jesus really did embody that. So a newer and better revelation of grace comes through God. Remember, everything that we know about God, we receive through the self-revelation of God. And so that's just a little bit of an understanding of what grace is. We don't want to make these sections too long, or it gets a little bit hard to upload. So that's the first one. Where do I go?